when you want to agitate, you need to have people banging on the door, like me, on the outside, and we need to have people on the inside who say, hey, people are banging on the door, maybe we should do something.
Hi, my name is Erika Alexander, and I'm here with Color Farm Impact, where we know stories shape systems, and we're really excited because we're with the Tech We Want, and we're going to be talking to a bunch of really cool people and ask them whether and how we set boundaries with tech and AI in our lives. So I'm down for this conversation. Are you? Yeah, you are. Come on, let's do it. First of all, let me just back up a little bit and say, what made you take on and ask Oscar so white? That's a statement and it's a question.
It really came down to me wanting to challenge the establishment. And I think that we have to do that all the time. You know, it was something organic. It was not something that I had planned. And once it was out there in the ether, then we had to have the conversation, okay, are you going to interact and engage with this hashtag? Because, you know, they come and go every single day. I absolutely know that Oscar So White would not have traveled as far as it did and been as impactful as it was today as it was in 2015 and 2016.
Now, I gotta say, tell us why that's the case.
Because I said Oscar So White, they asked to touch my hair. That was the very first tweet. Right? That's what started it all. And I say tweet because it was on Twitter. Twitter is no longer Twitter. And we know who runs it.
There you go.
Right? And we know how the algorithms have changed in the last decade.
What's the blowback from a person like you being in the world?
You know, I was very surprised that I received criticism from non-Black people of color when I said Oscar So White. Part of it was there was part of the Asian American community who said, well, what about us? You know, why aren't you fighting for us? And I said, I didn't say Oscar's not Black enough. I'm talking about everybody. And right. I'm not even talking about race. I'm talking about gender. I'm talking about disability. I'm talking about sexual orientation, right? We're talking about all people who are traditionally underrepresented, under-resourced.
Marginalized.
Especially in the entertainment industry. So the backlash that I experienced, like I needed to ensure that my kids were protected, you know. So I stopped talking about my kids online. I stopped posting pictures of my children. I made clear, you know, I do personal things for security. So if I'm posting a picture of me being in some fancy place, I'm already gone. You know, if I'm posting a picture in a hotel room and look at, I'm already home by the time you see it. Exactly. But, you know, and I think everybody needs to do that. And I think the backlash for Hollywood is that they actually had to take stock of the lack of change that happens within the industry.
Yeah.
Right? So what we know is that all of the major film companies are run by older white men. Even after Oscar So White, when they doubled the number of people of color and doubled the number of women within the membership ranks at the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences, the people that run the Oscars, it's still overwhelmingly white and overwhelmingly male. It was only in 2025, last year, when they started requiring people to view the films before they vote.
Right, so if you haven't watched it, you're able just to keep edifying people who you know, and they don't have the same relationships, new coming in, whoever they are. So if you're saying they just wanted you to qualify that you watched them last year, imagine how that system needed to be interrogated even further.
Yes, and we also need to ask the question of whether the Oscars are still relevant.
Ooh.
I mean, you know, we hear from Halle Berry, who said, you know, I won the Oscar decades ago and I still struggle to get work. You know, we hear from Viola Davis, who said, you know, who is an EGOT winner, you know, who says, I'm still challenged with respect to the types of roles when I still get them. You know, and so if we can see that the numbers of audience engagement, the folks who actually watch the Oscars every year, it's going down year after year. You know, if we know that the results of the Oscars don't necessarily translate into people getting more work or better work, then what are they doing?
Okay, full disclosure, I'm a part of the Academy as of last year.
That's amazing.
Thank you, American Fiction. And this is why it's really relevant to me, because it's no good to enter an organization and not be able to appreciate
That's right.
that it exists at all as a performer, but also know that there's work to do inside of it. If you are there,
Yes.
what can we do?
And so now that we have folks like you on the inside, you know, I think when you want to agitate, you need to have people banging on the door, like me, on the outside, and we need to have people on the inside who say, hey, people are banging on the door, maybe we should do something. You know, there needs to be friction on both sides. And so that's what I think the good result of Oscars So White is. Is there more work to be done? Absolutely. And truly, we shouldn't even be talking about the Academy anymore, because that's the end.
Okay, thank you.
That's the end of the road.
That's the
and
end of
so
the road.
let's talk about AI and
Let's
storytelling and the
Yes.
beginning of the story.
So that's the terms and conditions.
Yes.
Because right now, they can do only so much. By that time, you're talking about films that are already in the can.
That's right.
But the truth is, we have a problem here at the beginning that right now, if you're in Hollywood, there has been for a long time, that if you were of color, that they said you didn't sell in Europe. So they didn't make movies with, forget black people,
Right.
you know, hardly anybody in them that didn't look like somebody who, from their business model, wouldn't stunt their growth in a so-called market that they said they had to succeed in. That was obviously not true.
Right. And Black Panther blew that out of the water with $1.4 billion.
Well, didn't our sports and our music always blow that out of the water?
You would think.
I mean, no one would
You would
stop,
think.
you know, rock and roll and hip hop and all these things that we've created heretofore. But somehow our stories will not sell. So if you have people who on the funding end, no matter how good you are, will not allow you to make those stories, and you can't make those stories and gain the type of popularity, even if you make it distribution channels and systems. Before then, we didn't have the internet. There were different terms and conditions that the industry put on you that you just couldn't succeed in.
So it really is all about the opportunity. Clearly the stories need to be told. And I love the fact that we need more original stories. So I love the fact that Sinners has 16 nominations, right? Because God bless franchises, we all love them. But having an original story, and especially one that is so personal to Ryan Coogler, do so well successfully both at the box office with respect to critical acclaim and audience reception, that tells you that more of those stories are needed, right? So if we talk about terms and conditions, if we talk about storytelling, the questions that I always ask are, who is telling the story and whose story is being told? Because there are times when we think on its face it's a good story, but if you dive a little deeper, you realize it's not really the story that should be told. Good example of that is Green Book.
Oh, Lord, yes.
And so there are a lot of complex layers that we missed because the right story was not being told by the right person.
As a cultural architect and disruptor, we have AI now telling stories. We have people who are not even real telling stories. We have people disrupting all the time, getting people all worked up, and they don't have skin in the game like you do.
Yeah.
What are we going to do in all this? Where do you see this going?
I don't know that AI can make us cry the way a human can in their writing. You know, if you think about some of the things that have come out recently, it's super important, I think, that we focus on telling our own stories. You know, it is scary to me to think that, you know, you can film a movie and then go off and film the next movie, but they've done a full body scan of you, so that when they need to do reshoots and you're off in, you know, in a different country, they're like, oh, okay, we got it. We've got Erika's voice on tape. We've got her body, and so we can just stick her in. Because do they give you money for that?
Right.
You know, or what does it mean if you don't like the direction that they went after the fact and you're no longer there to fight?
Right. The algorithm is so white. And here's where I say, because even though many of those people who make tech are in other countries like India and, you know, Asia, the Western and European powers have been so successful at exporting a brand of culture. They can digest that and then push that within the algorithm, so then it's affected as well. What do you think about that?
So if I think about Spill, which is our our engine of fandom, right? And it's online. So Spill is a place where Black and brown, queer, multicultural, disabled folks can go and feel safe.
And I think I first heard of this when
Absolutely.
we were at the NAACP and you were talking. Yeah,
Yes. And so our large language model, the AI that we have, is being built in real time by people who look like us, built by Black and brown folks. And so not only do you have the cultural competency, you know who the focus is to keep those folks safe. Right? So if you're uploading your content, or you're just having a day and you want to talk on a social media platform like any other, you don't have to worry about a white supremacist being underneath your post saying garbage. You don't have to worry about the algorithm taking you to a horrible place because we haven't allowed that horrible stuff into the platform.
So I guess you have to opt into platforms like that.
Yes.
Meaning the human is the person
you have
who has to.
And I don't honestly have the answer to how we do it, but I think it's going to take the community, the collective, being more thoughtful and more vigilant about what we allow into our lives.
Is it worth it? How tired are you?
That doesn't matter. I mean, I'm a Black woman. We are always tired, and yet, as long as we don't let our well run empty, there's always a bit more that we can do. And I'm thankful for my family and for community and friends who pour into me, when my levels are on E, and help me to fight another day, because there's just so much more work that needs to be done.
April, thank you for making your life's work a safe space for all of us.
Thank you.